What's good, folks? Family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people. Middle Earth to a playoff edition of Disguise Coverage, the only podcast in existence that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin. I am your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro, 2 underscores, ANT. Find me on TikTok under the exact same handle. The show is sponsored by the best pizza in Buffalo, New York, hands down, aka One Pie Pizza. You can find the online menu in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or any one of the podcasting apps or platforms. In tonight's episode of Disguise Coverage, it's Wild Card week for the Buffalo Bills and for the rest of the teams in the NFL, and that means the Bills have the opportunity to advance or be eliminated in this year's playoffs, and it comes against a bitter rival throughout the history of this team's franchise and a rival throughout this year based on what's happened and progressed throughout the entire season. And this game happens to be against the Miami Dolphins, a team that the Bills faced several weeks ago in Week 15. And in that Week 15 preview matchup breakdown on Disguise Coverage, I was joined by Mr. Kendall Mirsky, friend of the show, co-host with myself and Eric Turner on the Cover One Film Room. And for the sake of consistency, I thought, you know what? Because it's been a short amount of time, let's bring Kendall back. Let's dive into this matchup again, connect it with a lot of the pieces that we saw from the last matchup, because honestly, it applies. Mm-hmm. And so I'm joined tonight by Mr. Kendall Mirsky. Kendall, welcome. Appreciate you. You had COVID over break. I'm glad you've recovered. Welcome to the show. How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm okay now. Thankfully, everything's good. Tried to take a proper hiatus over break and just kind of recharge and everything. And of course, you get hit with the plague. So
not great.
It is what it is, but I think I'm properly recharged, and I think it's a good time to come back. Bills
for sure
going into the playoffs. So I'm ready to hit this thing full swing back into the podcast game.
I don't know if you realize this, but Jason's already coming for you in the chat.
Oh,
Jason
I
says,
saw
I'm
it.
fully expecting the episode to start, and Kendall has Justin Herbert posters all behind him now that Herbert has finally made the playoffs. And then he clarified and said, like, with little hearts all over them, like a Backstreet Boys poster back in the day. For those who don't know, Kendall's a big Justin Herbert guy. And if he could, this was a declaration made earlier in the year, maybe like week 4 or 5-ish.
Yeah,
if Kendall could start a team with any quarterback that in the entire NFL, that quarterback would be Mr. Justin Herbert. And Jason has not forgotten that.
He is not. No, he reminds me of that too.
I love it. I appreciate his attention to detail. And
it's fair. Yeah,
it is fair. It is fair. Oh, this is awesome from Frank. Frank says, I'm a muggle. Is this site for me as well? Absolutely, Frank. If you are a muggle, again, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, you're all welcome. And
and where can I find the blueberry muffins? Are they over here on this table? Where
you have to go to the hotel and casino that Robert De Niro worked at in the movie Casino. But again, there will be equal amount of blueberries in each muffin. I appreciate your attention to detail, Frank. And Jason says, I always love Kendall, but I never forget.
Yeah.
We don't forget here on this show either. And like I mentioned, there are several pieces that are going to come into this Bills game, regardless of who the quarterback is for the Miami Dolphins, which at this point, it looks like it's going to be Skylar Thompson with the news that Tua has not cleared. Oh, and also not to get like too much on a side note, but I really hope Tua is okay. Like we've seen so many careers in sports derailed by concussions, and he suffered several severe ones in a short amount of time. And this is after he already came out of college and had to rehab that hip and try to get up to speed in that regard. And I sincerely feel for him and hope that he's able to kind of recover and get back to speed. But no Tua this weekend. It also looks like no Teddy Bridgewater with the pinky injury that he has. So it looks like for all intents and purposes, the Miami Dolphins will be starting Skylar Thompson. But there are still several key components for this Dolphins offense that we have seen throughout the year and that we saw in this last matchup in Week 15 that still hold importance and set a potential precedence for this wild card matchup between Bills and Dolphins. So with that being said, in this episode, we're going to dive into the Buffalo Bills run defense versus the Miami Dolphins rush offense in terms of their scheme, their tendencies, how they were able to take advantage of the Buffalo Bills in Week 15, the successes they had, and then on the flip side, what the Bills did as the game went on through adjustments in terms of course correcting and slowing that rushing attack down. Then we're going to flip it to the other side of the ball, Bills offense, Dolphins defense, what Miami has done against the Buffalo Bills throughout this year, and dive into some film of what the Bills did in Week 15, really attacking that defense now that the majority of the team wasn't leaving with heat stroke or heat flu or whatever, and show some of those vulnerabilities that the Dolphins defense has. So you know what you're going to get: advanced metrics, game tape, breakdowns, anything and everything from myself and Kendall. But before we dive into the film, one, if you're in here, watching this, whether live now or watching post live later, please drop a like on this video. I know it's corny, and I know saying that is corny, and I say this every single week, so that might be corny, but please drop a like. It is the lifeblood of these streams, and it goes a long way towards helping myself and the entire Cover One team to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. So if you're enjoying this content, please drop a like on this video. Please, please, please. If you're not enjoying this content, there's something wrong with you, and I suggest you look inward and figure out what that something is. Kendall, this matchup between the Bills and the Dolphins, if you're looking at it like holistically, again, before we really dive into the tape and the granular and the nitty gritty, where does your head go to first when you're thinking about this matchup? Is it a specific position group versus another position group? Is it a specific side of the ball? Is it tied to one player? Like, where does your focus go to when you think about what this wild card game hinges upon?
I do think there are some position group battles that'll be really important, but I really agree with something you put out on Twitter, I think earlier today.
I'm pretty great on Twitter.
You are. If you're not following, you guys should be following.
Well done.
Of course.
Well done. Glad you hit that quota. There's like a whole list of how many times
you gotta hit this.
You can come on the show, but at this minute, yeah, exactly. You do this.
Yeah, if you miss this by minute 7, you're off.
Yeah, I just messaged you in the private chat. I'm like, yeah, you didn't say that everyone should follow me, so you're done. Goodbye.
But I do think it's more of a game script idea, and because of the personnel at play this coming week, whether it's Teddy Bridgewater or Skylar Thompson, I think the point is still it's still very valid. This idea that the Bills were gouged early in the run game against the Dolphins. Mostert was running free. They weren't making tackles. They made adjustments and got through it, and we'll show you that today. But if a similar thing happens without Tua at quarterback, it really builds a buffer for that backup quarterback. It really allows them to get comfortable, perhaps have a lead. You stick to your game script of keeping or lowering possession numbers for Josh Allen. Like, all of these things kind of snowball into a higher win probability for the Dolphins. If the Bills can stop the Dolphins running game early and force them to pass the football 3rd and longs, 2nd and longs, things like that, just generally keep them behind schedule, and specifically behind schedule with the run game, and really force the offense to flow through whoever that backup quarterback is going to be, I think that win probability for the Buffalo Bills goes up significantly. So while I think there are some really, really important player position group matchups, I think that just pure game script idea, because of the fact that there's a backup quarterback, it kind of emphasizes that early start to the game and who's winning before adjustments are made.
I love that piece.
It's your piece.
I didn't want to bring it back because I didn't know people would sense the sarcasm and be like, "Oh, this guy's a jerk." And this I think is for any quarterback or any team, but especially with how Miami has been rolling or not rolling these last several weeks, and then coming into this game with Skylar Thompson or even Teddy, like you mentioned, you cannot give them any semblance of confidence, any semblance of rhythm, any ability to kind of diagnose and detail vulnerabilities in your defense and be able to poke and prod. Like, you cannot allow that. And I think that's so important in this game, because you're one and done. Like, it's not like, oh, okay, like we lost this one, like we'll kind of recover, or we'll get at them next time. Like, if you have one slip up, like that one slip up could be the difference between a win and a loss. So I take no chances. And obviously that's on the focus of my brain in this game. I'm very hyper focused on both trench battles. Bills D-line versus the Dolphins O-line, mainly from a perspective of, can they control the line of scrimmage this time? When we're going to get into the film a bit later on the Bills run defense from that Week 15 game against Miami, they were losing a lot up front, which is something we haven't seen consistently throughout this year. We know Greg Rousseau's prowess as a run defender on the edge. We know Shaq Lawson has that ability as well. Daquan Jones, I feel like, is starting to get a little more notoriety as the season has gone on, but he's been so stout on the interior, and even at Oliver. But then you factor in the Tim Settles of the world and Jordan Phillips when he's been healthy. Like, they've been stout up front. They weren't to start that game. Similar to what happened on the first couple of drives for the Bears on that Christmas Eve game, where the Bills D-line was just losing consistently. And regardless of how you feel about Tremaine Edmonds or Matt Milano or any linebacker or safety or whatever, the success of your run defense starts up front with your defensive line. And so can the Bills control that offensive line for the Dolphins in the run game. And then from a pass protection standpoint against Miami, can they get pressure with 4? What kind of games are they running? If Teron Armstead is out, like it looks like he will be, can they take advantage of the injuries and deficiencies up front? And then on the flip side, you and I were on the forefront of this concern about the Bills O-line movement back during free agency, then going into the draft, then coming out of the draft, then going into training camp. I'm still concerned. I've never really wavered too much. I don't think this line is deficient or terrible or a complete vulnerability, but they are very mercurial in their performances, and the dips that Spencer Brown has, the dips that Roger Saffold has, even the dips that Ryan Bates has at times, and you can even extend that a bit to Morrison Dawkins, they can be critically bad. And on the other side of the ball, man, like if you would have told me Christian Wilkins made All-Pro this year, I would have completely accepted it. He has been a monster. I know how Bills Mafia feels about him and how he may be as a person or in terms of the cleanness of his game. Yeah. But he's been an absolute game wrecker on the 100%. Interior. Jalen Phillips is having a very good year. He's around him and Rousseau, who were both those like high stealing edges guys from Miami. Yep. They both are starting to scratch that surface and become good players. Bradley Chubb, I know he hasn't been the Chubb from Denver, but he still has that potential and that ability, which still worries me.
It could pop at any moment.
1,000%. And then Sealer has had a phenomenal year, and I feel like he's the forgotten guy, and they even have a bit of a rotation after that. They've got a very good defensive line, and my brain will, whether I'm scarred or paranoid, it will continue to go back to what happened last year in week 1 against the Steelers, what happened against the Jags last year, what's happened against Chris Jones at times. When the Bills have faced elite defensive linemen, whether on the interior or the edge, they have been given problems at times. Even this past week against New England, I know it wasn't blown up too much. Christian Barmore was almost unblockable on the interior.
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, he had a great game, almost similar to the effectiveness level that Quinnen Williams has had for the Jets. Granted, Williams was seeing more snaps and was doing it consistently, but whenever Barmore was in there, especially from a pass rush perspective, he was winning on the interior. And if you can't control the trenches on either side of the ball, I'm not saying it will happen, but if you can't control the trenches, especially on offense, even with Skylar Thompson and injuries to the Dolphins offensive line and the potential depletion that they have on that side of the ball, if Josh Allen can't get things going, if they can't establish the run, if Allen has everything heaped upon him and the best protection plan for the Bills is, well, just go do something, just like make something happen because pressure's going to get through. I don't think that's a sustainable model, even in this game against a potentially depleted offense. And that's honestly going to be a concern of mine, like almost every single week.
It is. Yeah. It's been a concern of mine all season. Just like how much are we really going to continue to rely on Josh Allen out of structure for whatever reason he gets out of structure? If it's lack of separation, really good coverage from the defense, really bad pass protection, really good pass rush, whatever the combination is, it feels like too many times it's leading to Josh Allen winning off script. And it's really weird, but it's been sustainable to this point for like
but at some
2
point
years
it won't
now.
be. Like at some point it won't. And what's
that's
also scary
just,
too,
it's such a weird dichotomy of like no, yes, almost.
Yeah. It really, oh no. Oh, and then like he makes a play. And I think what's worrisome with it as well is it's not like, okay, the line is fine, but they're weak at right tackle, or the line is fine, but they can sometimes get gamed up. The Bills have shown vulnerability in almost every position on the entire offensive line, and it'll come in a variety of ways. Like sometimes it's just one player losing horribly. Sometimes it's their inability to adjust to games or stunts, or the Patriots had a couple real good ones where they were showing a 5-man front and they would loop Uche from the left edge all the way around through the A gap. And that's been something we've seen last year as well. And so even with the new addition of Aaron Cromer, who we all vouched for, when I say all, I mean you, me, and Eric, it's still creeping up. Their ability to get gamed up in a variety of ways. And you're going to be facing, again, a Dolphins front, even with their linebackers who are aggressive and love to come forward. You combine that with what they've done from a looks perspective, pressure looks and coverages, and what they've been able to mix. Like, I think that has the potential to be something that I don't want to say could make the Bills lose this game. Knock on wood. You can hear me knocking, but it can make the Bills inefficient in a heartbeat. And in a game where Miami knows they're down. They're going to see the point spread, which is up to like the Bills being favored by like 50 points now or whatever the hell it is. Like they know how much of the underdog they are,
Yeah.
and they'll play the
And you ride
disrespected
that.
card.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what kind of reverses that pendulum momentum is if it's the end of the first quarter and it's like 3-0. Or
Right.
it's maybe 7-0, and you've gotten Josh off the spot and you've been making hits and you've been making plays. All of a sudden it becomes, you know what?
A belief.
Yo, exactly. And I don't want any of that.
Yeah,
I
you got to
want
win
you.
early. You
Yes.
got to win early in this
I
game.
want your hopes and your dreams destroyed 5 minutes in. I want your soul taken and buried and sent to Hades and sent across the river Styx. I just like, you need that. Stomp out any belief, any semblance of confidence early for this Miami Dolphins team. And don't also let like any potential non-confidence, I was gonna say inconfidence, but that's not a word. Any potential non-confidence like creep into your own mind. And then also from a matchup perspective, I feel like I'm banging the drum in this game for themes that I've done all year, and it's not purposeful. I really want to see what the run game can do for the Buffalo Bills. As this season has gone on, very similar to how it went on last year, the run game has gotten better and better each week. I'm also banging the drum for more James Cook over Devin Singletary. The mid-zone runs that we're seeing from him, in addition to some gap runs as well, his patience, his vision. He's showing better contact balance that I
He
think.
really is. That was my next follow-up, that he's fighting through contact more than I think anyone scouted on tape from Georgia.
That's literally what I was going to say. Like, what was our two of our biggest, eyeball pieces for his development this year was his contact balance and his ability to function in pass protection.
Right.
He had a great block against Kyle Duggar that got called for a chop block, which is garbage.
The new age chop block.
Garbage. Nobody was engaged up top. But his contact balance has been strong. He's running through arm tackles at the line. He's falling forward consistently.
Fighting for yards, showing toughness as a runner.
I love that Vito was just like, Cook, yes, more Cook. And Elizabeth saying, I think Cook is going to be, I think Cook gonna cook is inevitable here in the playoffs. I like that.
Yeah, I think the way he's played the last like 4 or 5 games, it really tells you that, I don't know if there's a passing of the torch necessarily in the backfield.
Or
but
he took it. He took the torch.
Well, it could technically be that, but I don't think in this offense you're ever going to see it that decisively. I think they want to have a true committee. So maybe he's more of the featured guy, but it really seems like it's trending towards he's going to be the guy that's going to get more looks because of that opportunity that he creates. Like, he could create an explosive 10+ yard run on any single play, and you don't necessarily want to keep that on the bench if you don't have to. So I think we're going to see it more in the playoffs when you're in more high leverage situations.
That type of juice in any offense is so valuable. But I think, again, we're saying similar things this year that we did last year in this offseason. Like, the Bills are holistically like a good offense, but they don't have a ton of juice still. Like, they don't have a ton of vertical threats or a whole bunch of yards after catch potential. Some of the yards after catch pieces due to the structure and design of the route concepts and functionality with Josh Allen. But anytime you can add somebody into the offense who, I don't want to say instant offense because I think that's too high of an expectation and too big of a compliment, but James Cook can just make up for things. He can allow you to win even when you're losing because he has that juice to his game, and he's been showing it again more and more, little by little, and stacking together these performances. And I think some of the context numbers can be overblown. Like, I know what Bucky Brooks said about having to be a physical team and run the ball in the playoffs, and some other tweets that were put out today that, like, teams who win, in the playoffs, like, usually outrush their opponent. In 5 of the 6 wild card games that were won last year, the team that won outrushed their opponent. But it ignored things like, well, were those teams up and running out the clock at the end, so they were running more and their opponent was passing, yada yada.
Total yardage. But
that piece, again, it connects to something we've talked about all year, dictating to the defense and that ability to stay multiple. And if the Bills can lean on that running attack and pair it with what Josh Allen does from an RPO perspective or play action perspective, and all the opportunities it starts to afford you and all the vulnerabilities it starts to create for your opponent, you just become a much more dangerous offense. And I also want to tie that into, I'm not too much on this wagon. I'm very interested to see what changes there are schematically, if any, in terms of play design, play rhythm, play calling from this Bills offense, to see if we really are on the train of like Ken Dorsey's been hiding all these things for the entire year, and he's
Well,
going to unleash this package come playoff time.
what I will say is, in theory, like come playoff time, there's already a lot of people saying like, we got our first round bye type of thing playing the Dolphins without Tua. So it's like,
I hate that.
are we
That makes me
really
so nervous?
No, it's a very like it doesn't give respect to your opponent because
Oh,
it's only
1,000%. You undermine
it's only
them
one
completely.
guy out of 11 guys on the field. Like there are a lot of different ways that games can be changed.
And
more than
Miami
just
has a
one
lot
guy.
of good players. And
Exactly.
also,
It
like,
doesn't just come down to Tua. Like they
No.
could beat us without Tua. There is a world where that could happen. I don't think people understand that. But to the point that you were saying about Dorsey, keeping all these secrets, I feel like he would want to keep these secrets longer than
For
this
another
game.
week.
I think he would try to hold on to them, not show them in the first quarter.
For sure.
All right, if you get to the third quarter and there's a really important third down that you have to convert, like you pull it out there kind of thing. But I don't think he's going to unravel, all of his secrets for this game. I think you want to keep them for more important games down the line because you don't want to put anything out there too early. If that theory is correct.
I think that's a good point. And it also ties into that inexperience piece of him being in his first year. Like, does he jump the gun too early? And it's like, yo, bro, you didn't have to pull all that out in this first game. Like, you could have saved that for another week.
Exactly.
Like, how does he continue to maneuver with this team who finished second in offensive DVOA? I keep getting all these comments. I would post a good clip, and not even saying anything about Dorsey. I'd post a good clip for Shakir. I think it was a Shakir one. And people commenting being like, yeah, he should have been used more. Just another example of how bad Dorsey is. This offense finished 10th in DVOA last year. They finished second this year under Ken Dorsey in his first year. And I'm not saying that he's without fault and has not had some warts and some bumps in the road or inefficiency. You and I have talked about it on the show, on Twitter, via text. I had issues a lot this year with his red zone design and concept. I even, from a rhythm perspective, in terms of pass run balance and which one he's leaned into and when, I've had concerns, let alone with some of the overusage of certain concepts and just overall play design and play calling. But man, this guy just seems to continuously come under fire from Bills fans in his first year as an OC with the second best DVOA offense in the entire NFL. Again, that doesn't mean he is without blame or criticism.
Right. People are going to point to Josh Allen, bailing him out and things like that. People on this offense just bailing him out on the field. But he's putting those players in positions to succeed. And I know I talked about how much Josh Allen's winning out of structure, but who's to say that out of structure portion isn't still talked about in these meeting rooms? Those aren't just uncoached areas of the game. There is improvisational. Okay, the player just takes over, but there is still
you can build in improvisation. There can be a designed improvisation. And again, that's not to take away from what Josh is doing. But yeah, you can scheme that up a little bit and create the opportunity for him to survive and thrive in that off-script improvisational nature. It's just so funny how, I feel like we're at the point, and I get it, players are, especially the quarterback, especially a quarterback like Josh, they get the love and they get the shine. And you get, I feel like if Josh throws an interception, it could be a horrible decision, but people be like, well, he had to throw that interception because Dorsey's play design was terrible. And it's usually not to pull the card or even gatekeep to any degree, but it's always coming from people that I'm like, you don't know about concept and scheme and design. So what are you talking about? What are we doing? It's just.
You subscribe to a line of thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like this comment from Jessica saying, Bills fans are spoiled right now, and people and creators like to complain, but it makes for better shows.
Right.
That is fair.
Not
that
wrong.
Is fair.
Not wrong at all.
I also like this comment from Coach Chapman, who says, I believe in a one-game season, you save nothing. You have to win this week to get to next week. If you're saving something and you lose, then you saved it for nothing. And that's
I subscribe to that coaching mindset. And even though that completely contradicts the talking point I said before, 100% contradicts it. As a coach, that is the mindset you have to preach to your players. It's 100% the best way to be efficient on the field. You need to treat each game like it's your last, or especially in the playoffs, single elimination. You can't be too cute.
And that's the balancing act of it, right? Of what makes being a coach this one piece, I think is a microcosm of it, right? Which dials do you turn up and when? That's everything. in football. Like what Ken Dorsey is running, we'll just use him as an example on offense. Tons of other teams are running that. Like, oh, Ken Dorsey, like they ran a Yankee concept, for a big play to Knox. Every team has that. Like having levels or having, a dig with a clearing route on the inside, having that dagger concept, that's not unique to the Bills. Running sail isn't unique to the Bills. Everybody runs the same stuff, but it's when you run it, how you run it, what dials you press and when. That's the balancing act. And that's what makes I got to stop because we got a super chat. Oh, this is awesome. Thank you so much, Robert. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the super chat as well. But the comment is awesome. Robert says the best part of the week is disguise coverage. Thanks for a great regular season. Hoping we get a few more. That's awesome, Robert. I appreciate that holiday, man. That hit me in my feels. That's pretty awesome. Thank you so much. That was really nice. But in going back to this point from Coach Chapman and even tying it in what you said, like that's the piece, right? Like how much do you, if we narrow it down to that Dorsey piece, how much do you have to bust out of the bag to beat Miami, right? How much can you play conservatively and save some of that? Like you have to know when and how much, which button to push, which dial to turn up, which to turn down. And in your first season, granted, he's into the playoffs at this point, so he's got 17 games, 16 to really get into the rhythm of it. That's still not an easy thing. Like, and that's what makes coaching or calling plays. It's so tough because you're balancing and juggling all that while also juggling like human beings who make a bunch of money and who are super competitive, and you're trying to marry all that together. It's hard.
Yeah. I think the last point in terms of specific things that the Bills will have to, like game deciding matchups, specific things that they will really have to focus on against the Dolphins, offense versus defense, they have to have answers against cover zero. There are so many times against the Dolphins where they're just going to send the house either out of like some sort of disguised look in a very like, oh, we're all just in our normal positions pre-snap and everything, and then just bring the house and everyone else is manned up. Sometimes they show it. And if they're going to show it, you should probably have a play that has an answer to cover zero. And a lot of times answers to cover zero is just, deep over, something where speed wins out. But we saw even in the last game, like they have different ways to create either deep overs or just quick concepts to get someone open quick before the pressure impacts Josh. But one way or another, this is a team that likes to bring extra pressure at the quarterback, and we have to have answers for that, and specifically cover zero.
I'm also interested from that perspective to see what Miami does in this third matchup. The first matchup we saw in Miami, granted, there was that huge variable and caveat of the injuries the Bills had on the offensive side of the ball, really on the team as a whole, but especially on the offensive side of the ball, and then the losses they had due to the heat. Again, not making excuses, just recognizing that that's a variable. But Miami was so creative. I've said it on Twitter, like I felt like their defensive coordinator just he was waiting all year for this game because everything they threw in that game, they threw every pressure, every coverage, how they mixed them, how they disguised them, what they did. They would show a cover zero blitz and bring a cover zero blitz. They would show a cover zero blitz and drop out into cover three and only rush for the simulated pressures, the creepers, everything that they were doing taxed the ever-loving hell out of Josh Allen mentally and physically. And then you had the second game in Buffalo, which they added another little wrinkle, which was that man coverage piece with a safety or second level player coming down and spying Josh Allen. And it worked for a decent amount of time, especially in that third quarter. Javon Holland was that spy coming down from that third level, but they would vary it up. Sometimes it would be Holland. Sometimes it would be the other safety. Sometimes it would be the apex defender. Sometimes it would be an off-ball linebacker. But either way, however you slice it, cover zero or that spy look, or if it's cover one, depending on who's, if you're running lurk or you're running a rat defender or hole defender, whatever have you, the Miami Dolphins at some point are going to run a pretty good amount of man coverage. However, it's packaged together with something else. Who wins on the outside, I think, is a big one. I don't think, not just because of Xavier Howard, but I think the Dolphins are the type of team, especially with how they paid extra attention to Stephon Diggs in week 15.
Yeah.
I really don't think they're going to let Diggs beat you. So who is it? Is it Cole Beasley? Is it Isaiah McKenzie? Is it Gabe Davis? Is it Dawson Knox? Is it the run game? Is it Josh Allen's run game? Is it with the running backs? Like whatever have you. Is it, as Jessica says, is it John Brown? As she throws that up in all caps. Like you can have those concepts, those man beater concepts, but a lot of man coverage is just like, yo, that guy's covering you. You got to beat that guy. Like it's ISO ball. Like make a play, shake him, juke him, beat your man. Maybe Allen gives you a chance, but can the Bills win consistently on the periphery is a huge piece as well. Because honestly, like I know the Bills obviously won this past matchup and put up 30-something points. I've liked what the Dolphins have done from a schematic perspective and creativity and design perspective. So it's interesting to see what they continue to go with. This is disappointing. John says there's 95 watching. Actually, my counter right now says 103, but he says there's only 21 likes. Let's pound that like key. We need more likes. Please, 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 and thank you. I know, again, it's corny to show out and ask for it. Kendall will cry if we don't get enough likes.
He
will. He'll cry. You threaten him with it. I'll do it.
I'll do it.
You don't want to make Kendall cry. Also, again, please help this channel to, track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. So if you're here, please and thank you. Drop a like on this video. Kendall, what do you think? Should we get into some film?
Yeah, let's hit it.
Maybe not. Maybe we should just lie to the people and be
don't
like,
do this to them. Don't. They've gone through enough.
That's true. That's fair. Offense or defense first? What do you want to do? I know we spoke about it earlier, but I'm gonna let you call it in the moment.
Oh God, defense, because that's how my notes go.
I love how you all of us like broke. You're like, oh,
I did. I was not expecting this, and I was like, you know what, my notes are set up for defense.
You know what's funny is my notes are the opposite. So
unbelievable.
I screwed myself.
I mean,
so thanks a lot, Kendall.
Yours is intuitive. Who goes defense first?
Thanks a lot, Kendall. I go defense first. I'm a defense guy.
Yeah, but you.
I think I started with offense because you gave me your offensive notes first.
Oh, because we prepped. Yeah, we prepped opposite. Yeah.
You're a jerk. What are we going with? Offense? Is that what we're doing right now?
I said defense.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we're going defense. My fault. I'm falling.
Why'd you even ask me, bro?
All right. Don't you bro me on my own show. All right, we're going to start with the Bills defense. Sorry for that little peek behind the scene there. All right. I'm going to share my screen. Share my screen. There we go. A little bit of some game tape. So this first play that we're going to dive into, Kendall, this is something that we talked about this leading into this week 15 matchup. And it's something that, again, has been diagrammed with how the Bills played against the Packers, what happened when the Bills played the Jets. And ironically, McDaniel, LaFleur for the Jets, LaFleur for the Packers, all coming from that Shanahan tree. Yep. The use of motion, especially against a defense like the Bills, to pull the Bills defenders out of the box and create leveraging scenarios that favor the offense, that kind of put you a half step out of position to then take advantage and pin you to that side and allow for the advantage for the offense. Mike McDaniel is very good at that piece. So this first play that we're going to go over here, this is an outside zone with some jet motion. This is the very first play of the game for the Dolphins offense. You're going to get a gain of 13. And so watch, we're going to get motion from Tyreek Hill. Also, these pieces, regardless of who the quarterback is, this will stay. Like if you watch, so I went through and watched the game tape from the Dolphins offense against the Pats this week. These elements are still there. They're still running that pre-snap motion, whether jet, whether orbit. Like these are core elements of this team.
The offense does not change.
No, if anything, they'll probably lean into this more to try and help Skylar Thompson.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get the motion there from Mr. Tyreek Hill, and watch what it does to the defense as Tyreek Hill goes in motion. You see immediately Milano comes down, Poyer comes down, and even watch where Poyer ends up.
Yeah. This is my issue with the play.
Him and Dane Jackson are chilling here because they have to respect the threat of Tyreek Hill, and you created a numbers advantage for Miami because these two are out here. Trey's back here, Hamlin's back here. So now all of a sudden you've got 7 in the box versus a numbers advantage for the Miami Dolphins offense, and you just get this gashing run. And when you look at it from like this sideline angle, again, the motion is what gets it for me. You see the reaction. Even Milano, he shifts a gap over, but it's what it does to Poyer that it completely pulls him out. This is obviously some kind of bust. And then also if you look on the interior here, Daquan Jones, our boy, who makes up for this later, he just gets housed right away. I think he also kind of falls a little bit. He trips on
Yeah.
Hunt 68 on his leg, but he goes down right away. It creates a gaping hole, and you see a big gain gashed right off the bat.
Yeah, my big issue with this play is definitely, I mean, this is the first play of the game, so you're obviously sticking to your game plan and this idea of what the game plan is. And I think on
And this
this
was also
first
good for
play,
Miami, who came into this game like, this is right after for everyone. They lost to the Niners. They lost to the Chargers. The thought was Tua has to take the check down more. They got to run the ball more. They aimed to establish this right off the bat.
Yes. And they did a great job of doing it. But the Bills clearly had this idea of respect the motion man, because there was so much respect to that motion man through a lot of the first half. There was an adjustment in the first half, but for most of the first half, it was respect that motion. There's a chance it's either going to be handed off there. There's going to be a quick pass to the motion, or, a wheel to the motion, whatever it is. Respect the motion man and make sure you're all over him. And you see this, it's just an over allocation of assets towards that motion man. And like you said, it gets the Bills outnumbered in the box. So it's really about what the Bills want to do with the motion and how they plan to combat this. And honestly, we'll be showing you how they made adjustments throughout this game, but it'll be interesting to see that, back and forth of, okay, now do the Dolphins decide to overuse the motion man because of what the Bills adjusted to in this game? And we'll get there. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but it's very interesting to see how really the motion is handled.
Yeah, and another piece from it as well, I love Taron Johnson. I think he's one of the extremely key and important pieces for this Bills defense. And part of him being so important is because he's so good in coverage as a nickel defender, but he can also come into the box and function like a linebacker at times, and both sides. Sometimes he's functioning as a will, sometimes he's functioning as the strong side linebacker at times, but you don't want him consistently having to live in the box and take on fullbacks and take on offensive linemen. And if you watch this play, so we get that shift, not only does Poyer get pulled out, but Milano bumps over, and this run goes to the right. This forces Taron Johnson to become basically like an off-ball linebacker in this run fit. And now all of a sudden you've got not only a numbers advantage, but you've also got a personnel advantage, because a fullback on a nickel, even one who plays the run with the aggressiveness and the tenacity of Taron Johnson.
It should be a win for the offense every single time. It really should.
Correct. And also another key piece I want to mention, Alec Ingold, the Dolphins fullback right here. He is tremendous. Mike McDaniel comes from that Shanahan tree. Who does Kyle Shanahan love as a chess piece? Kyle Juszczyk. Mike McDaniel, what he has in Alec Ingold, it's not Kyle Juszczyk, because Juszczyk is a unicorn.
But the usage.
Yes, the usage. With Ingold, you have a player who is capable of blocking like an actual fullback, but he can also get out into the route distribution. And they love to use him in that RPO pass that we broke down so much that we're going to talk about in a short minute. But Alec Ingold had thumb surgery after the Green Bay Packers game, and against the Patriots 2 weeks ago, and against the Jets this week, he's playing with a big club on his left hand, which almost completely, it basically does, I'm trying to be sarcastic, eliminates his viability in the pass protection game. Even with his run blocking, he's struggling. You're seeing him just trying to throw shoulders and really just like get in front of dudes, because he can't form up, because he has one hand. That's a significant piece. And for those who watched the episode of Disguise coverage leading into this week 15 matchup that we're breaking down here to tie it into this wild card game, we showed how Ingold was used time and time again. Sometimes he'd be the slide route. Sometimes he'd be the wheel. Like, he's functioning 5 to 15 yards downfield. Now, all of a sudden, you don't have that. So if you see Ingold in there, it's almost exclusive. Like, it's almost a tendency, like, okay, it's got to be a run. Or if he's going out into the route distribution, I don't know, you could kind of leave him uncovered, and maybe Thompson has to float it enough so he can one-hand it, because he doesn't have a lot of legitimacy in the pass game with that injury that he has.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a big difference maker.
Good comment, Kendall.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Stupid comment. My mic's on mute right now. I'm just kidding. It'd be funny.
No,
if I'm just like,
not even.
Terrible. He's awful. No, I know it's not.
Oh, shoot.
All right, so next, right? Oh, whoops. Episode canceled. Next play here. So I alluded to that RPO pass that we talked about, and This is for those who don't know, it's an RPO look, sometimes legitimate RPO, sometimes they're just given that action, but it will lead to the route combination of seam route. And this isn't necessarily what happens on this play, but you'll get a seam route and a wheel, or you'll get this guy runs the seam, this guy runs the wheel, this guy will come out of the backfield, or maybe this guy runs the wheel and there's a different alignment of formation. They get to this look from a variety of personnel groupings in a variety of situations. They'll run real runs off of it. They'll run different combos, so on and so forth. But what you get on this play, so this is the first down to start the next series after the Dolphins punted on their opening series. And you're going to get a pin and pull run here with jet motion. Again, surprise. But this looks like their RPO pass, and it causes hesitation from the second level defenders. So we'll watch it here in slow motion again. There goes Tyreek Hill. And if you notice again, spoilers, watch the second level defenders as Tyreek Hill goes in motion. Shock, they're bumping over. They are honoring that piece. And so now this is where that RPO pass comes in. So I just talked about what you had there. So this person's going to run the seam. Hill is going to come on motion and run that wheel. And then usually you'll get something in the flat. It could be Ingold here. It might be the running back. It might be Sherfield coming around here and being that option in the flat. You're going to get 3 options on that side. But here, again, this is just an actual run play, but it looks like the RPO pass. And look at the hesitancy that it causes at the second levels. Particularly, I want you to watch, I kind of circled them both there, Matt Milano. Watch how he hesitates as this handoff happens. He sits. He's got a man coming down on him to block him. He's not even engaging it because he's still thinking about that pass. He's looking at him. He's just sitting there. And then it's like, uh-oh, and then he's already hit. It creates that hesitancy. It has the same effect as like a play action piece, right? But opposite for the pass game, like where you honor the run and you hesitate and it's like, uh-oh, somebody just got behind me. But their ability to run variations of plays out of the exact same look, it's truly a testament to Mike McDaniel because it makes you pause in your play because you have to think. You can't just read and react because you have to diagnose and process multiple pieces and diagnose and process them accurately because if not, you can get gouged. And granted, this game was Tua and it's not Skylar Thompson, but when you know the threats that exist on the outside, you have to play pass first, even if you're honoring the run. It's either in the forefront or the back of your mind. And McDaniel leaning into it with these design runs, but building it off of that RPO pass concept, I thought was really well done. And this is something the Bills are still going to have to combat this week.
Yeah, it's still going to be a thing this week. And that hesitancy alone is really enough for, you can see Ingold playing tight end here and then the offensive tackle on the other side. It allows them that half second to get better positioning as they climb to the second level and get a better angle on those linebackers to take them out of the play or at least, churn out 3-4 more yards. But I mean, on top of that, there's so many different parts of this beyond just the motion and the fear of the RPO that, kind of makes this play what it is. But you can see both safeties are at depth as the motion comes over. Poyer gets some more depth. And then really sneaky thing too. And I mean, the Dolphins have continued to do this all year and I didn't really realize it until now. I went back and looked. They've done a lot of false polling and on this play, Teron Johnson just absolutely falls for it. Like as a second level defender, your instincts, you're usually taught growing up, like follow the pullers. And it's kind of hard to just not follow a puller when you're kind of ingrained to do that from a very young age.
Yeah,
like,
you follow that flash of color.
Yeah, like, oh, okay, you have a guard pulling to your side. That's probably where the run's flowing. But on this play, you see 71 pulls from right tackle, and the run is to the right A-gap. Like, it just takes Teron Johnson completely out of this play. And that's kind of what we've been talking about with this entire offensive concept of we're going to try to take as many players out of this play as possible so the run game can be a numbers advantage for us. And they do it pretty dang well.
What I also like with this one too, I also think what influences that is how far upfield Tim Settle gets. If he's able to be sealed, because if you watch Mostert's path,
it could be
exactly. If he's able to be sealed, Mostert can go this way and follow the puller.
Right.
But Settle actually does a good job and wrecks this and isn't able to be sealed, gets inside, so that the puller has to pick him up because he sees that flash of color. But then because he got so far upfield and Daquan Jones got so far upfield, all of a sudden, like, you just created this huge gap.
And
And
you know what
then,
the sad part is, though? Like, if Settle doesn't do that, the Bills are still outnumbered on the
correct,
counter to the
because
left.
they've added the gap, so they're done.
Like,
And then you even same thing, like you're taught, you follow the pullers, you read that flash of color. Edmonds goes with it as well and gets caught. And all he tries to over pursue, and so Armstead is just like, okay, cool, let me sit. And then
right. Get
Mostert
him out
gets
of
upfield.
position
And
for the
this is
cutback.
another piece as well. Like you and I have talked about it a bunch. Not everything. I think people get hyper focused on their individual team, and it's always like, well, you know, so and so sucks on that play. I can't believe you got beat like that. Sometimes, a lot of times, you have to tip your cap to the opponent. Sometimes they have really good players, or a really good play call, or a really good design, or really good execution, or all of those things. And sometimes you just get beat. The Kyer Elam touchdown he allowed this past week against Devontae Parker is an example of that. Elam, he was ugly at the catch point, 1,000%. But he had good coverage the entire way. But Devontae Parker just made a play. Devontae Parker did what he does, which is go up, get the ball, and dunk on dudes. It was a good throw from Mac Jones to put it in a spot that favored Parker. Parker went up and made a play. Yes, did Elam get beat? 1,000%. But sometimes it's just like, damn, dude made a play. Sometimes it's more about what the other person did than what you did. And I think that's also something that speaks to the Dolphins offense because they put teams in this bind consistently with their design, with their concepts, and all those pieces. So shout out to them. Again, I'm very interested to see like what they lean into even more with Mr. Skylar Thompson. And now move on to another play here. Again, jet motion causes a shift at the second level. This one isn't anything crazy other than watch when the shift happens in conjunction with when Tua snaps this ball. This is not an accident. Watch the motion. Watch Milano. He shifts. The ball gets snapped. Now he has to, I'm going to show it from the end zone angle. So Milano shifts in relation to that motion. Tua snaps this ball as Milano is still shifting. So now Milano has to plant on that inside leg. And all it takes, because of the athleticism of players in the NFL, it just takes that half second. He's caught leaning this way, and this play is going to the right. What McDaniel has done and the snap timing of Tua is created a situation where the Bills defense is out leveraged. Because now Milano is not only stepped inside, he's leaning inside. You've made it easier for your offensive linemen to not only get to the second level, but more importantly, seal that player inside to allow the run to exist on the outside. And it leads to a 67-yard gain on this play.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to this play. Out leveraged at the beginning, is definitely part of it. But yeah, the timing of that shift and really that half second to allow Connor Williams to climb, like you said, and seal it off is absolutely massive. But you also get that motion coming from the top of your screen, and it forces Poyer to then get depth again, takes him out of the box to make a play early at the line of scrimmage. And then, I mean, from there, it's just poor tackling. Like
even
really
at the line, like this isn't like a gimme for Ed out or for Daquan Jones there, but like he could have had this play dead to rights in the backfield. Here's Daquan Jones right here. And he's just unable to get Mostert down, which I guess is a testament to Mostert because he ran through like the entire team.
He really did on this play. But that's the thing. Like, I don't know if I'm necessarily like it's great play from Daquan Jones. I don't know if I'm expecting him to necessarily catch up with that burst.
Not necessarily.
Because you could see him take a wider angle once he saw Daquan just really disrupting this play as he typically does. But yeah, once he gets to the second level, like there's really not much of an excuse for that missed tackle or Epinesa
or that missed tackle or that missed tackle or
it's just bad.
Yeah, it's disheartening.
But it starts with the scheme. Like he gets McDaniel gets his running back into this position to force this opportunity to even happen because of the timing of the snap with the motion, getting out leveraged and outnumbered on that right side of the offensive line.
Very fair. Good point, Kendall. Well said. Well said. Let's move on to another play here for this Bills defense. Shut up, Kendall. All right. So now some positives for the Bills defense. We are now into the second quarter, 4 minutes and 31 seconds left in it. We're going to get, again, shock. We're going to get some jet motion. But this time, we don't get a second level shift. This time, we get penetration and get off from the defensive line. And I'll play it in real time. Just look at the difference. So again, we've shown multiple run plays. And Another theme for them has been the push that the Dolphins offensive line has got, them reestablishing the line of scrimmage. Watch what happens this time for the Bills defensive line, specifically Daquan Jones here in the middle. Boom. And then Rousseau comes from the edge. The difference. Also, again, just in real time, look at the get off from Daquan Jones. Boom. He's already caused a problem in the gap, caused a problem for Hunt. He's getting penetration. Rousseau is screaming down off the edge on this zone run here. This time they get penetration. They reestablish the line of scrimmage. They cause havoc. They're not reacting as much in this instance. They made a decision to be like, okay, screw it. We're attacking. And that can be by design. It could be by a run blitz. It could be by a run stun. I've also got Greg Rousseau highlighted here. I love how he's got the elbow out because he's feeling and potentially anticipating a crack block here from Sherfield. Yep. So he's got that arm out so he can see what's up. Doesn't happen. So he just comes down.
Goes right through. Yep. More of an aggressive play call. And the thing I like about, I mean, you can visually see the in-game adjustment here in the second quarter where that second level is really not shifting much. The only players that are shifting are players in the secondary, players that have to respect how this changes coverage on the back end. It's not affecting run fits as much as it did before. So that's why, I mean, you're still respecting the motion. It's just how much are you respecting that motion? And that's why I specifically like this in-game adjustment. And why, when I jumped the gun earlier, when I was saying, oh, okay, this back and forth, like this is where it starts to come in. If this is the adjustment the Bills want to make, how are the Dolphins going to make them pay for not respecting that motion man? Do you see more jet sweep handoffs? Just straight up give it to the motion man right away. Because if the second level isn't going to flow with it, then they could get to Elam in this scenario, and it's just a one-on-one with the motion man and Elam. And beyond that, it's just playing catch up. And if it's Tyreek Hill, are you catching up? So it's a very interesting back and forth.
Yes. Or if you know, like, hey, their defensive tackles are sounding off on the inside, let's run trap. Let's run ram. Let's take advantage of that hyper aggressiveness upfield, that one gap penetrating nature of the Bills defense. Let's take advantage of it and use it against them. Because this is what using the Bills' athleticism and fast flowing nature and shifts, that's what this motion is doing. That's what play action does. That's what these teams have started to do to use the Bills' defensive strengths against them. And again, to your point, that's the chess match, right? Like, how do you play to your strengths while mitigating the strengths of your opponent? How do you mitigate your weaknesses while exposing the weaknesses of your opponent? And it's just back and forth and back and forth. But again, nice piece from Leslie Frazier and the Bills defense on this one. Now we're going to go to another play. Positives again for the Buffalo Bills. This time you're getting a safety down in the box. That safety is Mr. Damar Hamlin. So we showed the penetration and the get off from the defensive line on the previous play. Another option that you can do, and this is something we've seen the Bills do consistently through this year, you bring a safety down and you bring a traditional run blitz, whether you show it pre-snap or you try to time it on the snap. This time you're going to bring Damar Hamlin down. He's going to come down to the box, comes off the edge, play in the backfield. So again, another instance of the Bills defense adjusting and, okay, you know what? Let's change these numbers pre-snap. Again, what we showed earlier, Kendall, you called it out multiple times, highlighting in the first several plays where we showed successes for the Dolphins offense. We showed those safeties at depth. Now you have the opposite. Damar Hamlin is literally on the line showing rush and you're ready. And even here with Trey White being next to him, like, look at all the defenders you've got that are near or at the line of scrimmage or in the box, showing that ability to gap out and be gap sound and have the numbers advantage from a gap perspective. And this is why this also goes back to something that I talk about all the time. It's in my Twitter bio. How you fit the run determines your coverages. If you cannot fit the run with 6 or 7 and you have to commit a safety to the box, that limits what you're able to do pre-snap and post-snap. If you're having a problem filling and fitting the run with your safeties from depth, you have to put a safety in the box or at the line of scrimmage pre-snap in order to be able to help yourselves with in terms of gap integrity. If you can't fit the run with light boxes or 7-man boxes, you need to change your coverage on the back end because you're going to need to bring a safety down, even if it's not a safety. If you have to commit more men to the box, That's just less guys you have on the back end for coverage. So your run fits determine your coverage. In this instance, it was a run commitment using that blitz from Hamlin. And this is also too, right? If you start to see this, do you adjust and you run play action with a boot and you tell your quarterback to keep it because you see Hamlin or whoever, whichever.
And you have a numbers advantage on the route tree.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's the interesting back and forth once again. But I got to say it's encouraging. And this has been a talking point, especially lately, really seeing the Bills taking their in-game adjustments to the next level. And I think this has been an area that Bills fans have been upset with in prior years, but it has been a strength this year. And obviously this is right out of halftime. We saw the adjustment late in the second quarter, but here in the third quarter, you see another adjustment to the motion. It's a little bit of a wrinkle of what we just saw. The linebacker level is still flowing with the motion, but the difference here is you're committing another player to the box. You're doing another wrinkle where, okay, where's the motion going? Okay, it's going to the top side of the screen. We're going to bring another player into the box to fill on the back side of this play where the motion came from. And then also
while we cut off the front side.
Exactly. Shout out to Ed Oliver and Boogie Basham on this play to cut off the front side of this play, force the cut back, and allows DeMar Hamlin to make the play with the backside run blitz.
Yeah, even Daquan Jones staying strong at the point of attack.
Yeah,
but exactly to your point, what Basham and Oliver does, so you're bringing that weak side in this instance, or a blitz away from the play side. So backside blitz here. But because you've cut off the front side, man, this is a great rep from Ed Oliver. Because you've cut off that front side.
Especially Ed Oliver.
Big time. Because you've cut off that front side, that running back has to cut back because he's forced to. And now all of a sudden he's cutting back into the blitz and into the pursuit and into the numbers. So Hamlin makes this play, but you're spot on. This happens because the front side gets cut off. Here is Ed Oliver. Watch the work and this is also something too, this is why tape is so important. I've seen comments where well, look at Ed Oliver's numbers. Dude's a bust. He should not be re-signed. This is something that doesn't show up on the stats. There is no stat for cutting off the front side of a run.
Tackle assist.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
It's not like you can't, there's a shared tackle, but there's no tackle assist.
No, there is no stat for performing an unselfish act to force the ball carrier to your teammate and allowing him to make the play. But that's what happens here for Ed Oliver. Cuts off this front side. Oh, got to put my foot in the ground or slow up a little bit. And that's the key piece, right? He slows up. The running back slows up his pace. Watch right here. He's kind of, he's still hopping. He's not making one cut.
There's really nowhere to go.
Correct. There's not. And that allows Hamlin to come down from the backside and make a play. I also wanted to hit home a piece that you mentioned, the adjustment piece. So the Bills defense, DVOA by quarter. Defense in quarter one, 23rd. So not great. But then quarter two, they're first. Quarter three, they're sixth. The fourth quarter in OT, they're sixth. And then late and close, they are third. Similar for the offense as well. Bills offense, first quarter, sixth. Second quarter, first. Third quarter, second. Fourth quarter in OT, 20th. But that can be monkeyed with a little bit based on where they are.
Game script. Are we just running out the clock?
But then late and close, first. So this Bills team holistically, offensively and defensively, has been a good in-game adjustment team. Like we talked about, again, we're showing it on the tape, but also the numbers and advanced metrics back that up as well. They're a team that very much kind of feels like a fighter. You kind of feel it out
in the first quarter. Yep.
Exactly. Feel them out in the first couple of rounds and then
But that goes to the early talking point of don't we just want to get this game over with as soon as possible and get out of here with a nice clean victory? So although, we're a great feel it out and adjust kind of team, if we jump out early, those win probability numbers skyrocket.
Correct. 1,000%.
Specifically this week.
Wanted to pull up the comment from Coach Chapman. I believe this is a reference to one of the other players we were showing when we were showing the pullers and what it did to Taron Johnson and Edmonds, and exactly what Coach says. You have to honor the puller. You get out leveraged when they do run it, and then it's a big time gash. If you haven't honored that puller, and all of a sudden you've got locomotives getting out in space and there's no one to meet them at the line of scrimmage and they get a full head of steam in space and you've got numbers advantage. That's a problem out there in space. I also like this comment here from John. John says 2 trees. Kendall and Ant. The band is back together. Kendall's okay, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just all right. I'm a background singer.
I don't say you're just like, I don't even know. That's pretty high
Groupie.
praise for yourself. You're kind of like, who's the guy that not even sets up the mic? You hand the mic to the guy to set up. You're not even setting it up. You hand him the mic. Good times.
Oh, let the good times roll.
Let them roll. Another one here for the Bills defense. So again, we're going to see jet motion. We're going to see that second level shift, but this time you got a safety down in the box, Mr. Jordan Poyer. So you've got a numbers equaling balancing act from the Bills
Similar
defense.
To the last play, you're committing another safety to the box to combat
pre-snap.
You wanting to shift your linebackers with motion.
You're not even risking showing a too high shell and then spinning the safety down post snap or trying to time it. This is you are coming here and being like
showing your look.
Yep. You know what? Let's not even risk it. We need to stop the run. The focus is the run. Let's bring a safety down. Also in this scenario, because again, situations are important. It's 2nd and 3 at this point. So you're playing the odds, you're playing tendencies, thinking the Dolphins are going to run it, and they do. So you've got that safety down in the box. You're going to get a second level shift, but this time the second level shift is okay because again, you've brought a safety down. So when you shift, you've still got another body in the box and you're not as at risk for being out leveraged or set up or pushed into disadvantageous scenarios. And then Mr. Tremaine Edmonds right here, Mr. Daquan Jones right here.
This is awesome. Beautiful
reps. So we'll watch. Here we go. Jet motion for the 75th time. See the shift from the second level, but it's okay. Oh, look at Jones get into his man and drive. Tremaine Edmonds attacks, shoots, bang.
You want to do me a favor and go to the end zone on this? Of course, no.
No, sideline only.
I have an analogy with this play with those two. Daquan Jones is the fullback. Tremaine Edmonds is the running back.
Stupid analogy.
Just run this play and tell me this doesn't fit perfectly. He is just following Daquan Jones, who is just
halfback lead.
Yep, he is leading in this. This is literally a halfback lead play, but with defensive players. He's like, all right, just come follow me and I will show you to the ball.
It's almost like too, like if the quarterback was here, you almost have like a strong eye alignment and fullback, like, or like the quarterback would be here. And so you got strong eye and like he's there, tailback in the backfield. I like that. Well done.
Isn't that wild? Like I saw this play and I was just like, this is crazy how much Daquan Jones is doing for Tremaine Edmonds on this play. And granted, Ingold doesn't even catch a piece of Edmonds on this play, but it still goes to show how much that front four can impact how the second level plays.
And that's a huge piece as well, right? When you have somebody up front that wins in a dominant fashion quickly and gums up the works for the entire rest of the offense, even if the play design is there, even if someone else at the second level is in a horrible position, if you win that early on the front line, it can be detrimental to the entire play. I mean, we've seen it from the same perspective for the Bills offense. How many times are there players that are eventually going to come open downfield, but I don't want to, this is a readily available example, but Spencer Brown loses in the first half a second and all of a sudden Josh has to get off his spot or he's got pressure bearing down on him. Correctly. It changes the entire nature of who you are. This time you're seeing it from a run defense perspective. Daquan Jones just wins with leverage and power, drives the center back. I love this too. Watch him here. So he's peeking around. He sees Mostert come inside. So he's like, cool, I'm going to just shut the hell out of my man and get held, but still break off. And then Edmonds is there to help clean up. And even if Edmonds isn't there, you've got Lawson right here. You've got Poyer coming down. Again, that's another advantage of bringing that defender down into the box pre-snap to have that numbers advantage.
And I think this was a zone counter, and you can see that Poyer is right in the right spot for that cutback on the zone counter here.
This is something we're seeing a lot, like with that the zone blocking, and then you see steps here and that way and steps here and that way. Like this is something that's becoming very popular.
I didn't notice it until this year. Like I've been charting a lot of zone counters across college and pro football. It's becoming very popular. That and duo counter.
Good call.
It's good call. I didn't notice it until this year. You got to get that misdirection.
Again, anything. I mean, you're in a situation now where defenses are so athletic, and they figured out like how to play the numbers game with limiting explosives and two high shells and disguising coverages and changing the pre to post snap picture. So then it becomes like, okay, the pendulum swung that way. What do offenses do to swing the pendulum back? And if you can
use
get
the athleticism against them,
boom,
all right, misdirect them in one way, that means they're going even further in that direction. They have less strength, pop, stoutness, the run game, all
especially
that stuff.
if you want to, teams so much now want to fit the run with 6 or 7 man boxes. So
Right.
you're inherently defensively usually not going to have the numbers advantage. So that means you have to execute or win individually. And if anybody is pulled out and put into a disadvantageous situation, it makes you vulnerable even more so than you already are because you don't have the numbers advantage.
Yeah.
That means you have to execute and be efficient. And if you get made to not be that by an offense running a counter and making you think, oh, it's going left, crap, it's going right, that half second, you're done. Yeah, so I thought that's been a nice answer. This is the last play for the Bills defense. I also love the change in where
the weather, it hit
Yeah.
so fast, and this was the game that
You're
everyone
like,
was like, oh, the Dolphins are gonna freeze. It's
Correct.
gonna be so much snow.
Mike
No,
McDaniel's
like
talking
snow that
about
was
like he wants
happening
it
was
to be
snow
cold.
balls for the first like 3 quarters.
Absolutely wild. But here you're like, oh, what a nice like Buffalo night. And then later you're like, oh,
What a
okay,
miserable Buffalo.
what a horrible night. But watch again, we're going to get push and penetration from the defensive line. And you're also, again, another individual standout performance. Watch Greg Rousseau on this play. One of legitimately the best run defenders at edge in the entire NFL. We're going to get that motion again. Look at the reestablishing of the line. You got Rousseau here. You got more push and penetration here. Even the man Ed Oliver here, who's not like in the backfield, is still at the line of scrimmage. He's not getting driven back. So you are owning and winning the line of scrimmage as a group, but then you also have individual winners dominating, and it changes everything. And then Rousseau makes a really good play.
Yeah, Rousseau is incredible on this play. You can see it best from this end zone angle. The way he
the sideline angle.
Let me just go back here where you can't see anything.
Play.
on the end zone angle, you can really see how well he plays with his leverage and his hand placement on this play. Gets right up into the shoulder pads, right underneath them, completely controls his player. And then, really important point, at the point of attack, obviously then extends his arms, uses that length that he has, and uses it to escape and keep that blocker away from him to escape and then make the play on the football. So really just picture perfect. And I mean, this goes to show everything you were just saying. Like, he is legitimately one of the best run stoppers at edge in the entire league.
I've said this before on the year, like Rousseau plays to his length so well.
Yeah. It's and natural for him. Correct. He just gets it for like, this is what, his 3rd, 4th year at edge. And he just, even coming into the league, like he just kind of understood how to use his length, and he's only gotten better with it. But he had this just natural feel for,
he's got a high,
all right, I'm long and I got to use it.
You can watch him process. Like, he's got a high football IQ. Yeah. He understands the game well. And I know you might think like, oh, well, like dude is big and he's playing big. Like, duh.
Not a lot of people do that. No, like there are players that are like big guys and they play small. They play like there's some small. Think of those big point guards you see on like Instagram, those like big 7 foot, like 200 pounders playing basketball, and they're like dribbling around like, oh, big guard. And it's like, there are legitimately football players that try to do stuff like that. Like, they're really big, but they're trying to play their position small. And you got to play to your strengths.
Yes. And you have guys who have length and they don't play to it, or they don't use it in the right way, or they don't take advantage of the tools they're given. It's like, you can give the best ingredients for a delicious dinner to anyone, but if the dude doesn't know how to cook, those ingredients don't mean anything, or they mean less.
Is that a Russell Wilson dig?
No, but I wish it was. Even if your ingredients are unlimited, it might not work. And there you go. I brought it back. Yeah, like it doesn't, just because you give someone, oh yeah, bro, like here's all this stuff. You can make an awesome meal out of this. You can make a delicious lasagna with all this stuff. But if you don't know how to make lasagna, guess what? You're screwed. And you don't know how to cook. Maybe you luck into it. But just because you have the tools or you have the ingredients doesn't mean the end product or the result is going to be there. And we're
That's
so
why
reading
scouting's so
plays.
much fun.
Yes, that's what and that's why also evaluation is so different. You show a prospect, you could show the same play or the same game tape of a prospect to 10 different people, and you can legitimately get 10 different evaluations in terms of grade, in terms of rank, in terms of strengths and weaknesses, and the value of each. Like, you might think this guy's footwork is good and it's a 9 out of 10. And I might think, oh, his footwork was good, but it's more like a 6 or a 6.5 out of 10. Like,
Right.
that
There's
interpretation
subjectivity
piece.
to it.
Yes, there is. Also love, again, Coach Chapman is crushing in this episode.
Yeah,
He
he
says
is.
motions and shifts causes delays in reads, reactions, and angles. And this ties into a point we talked about earlier again, why teams are using this against the Buffalo Bills, because the Bills are fast flowing, they're athletic. So you want to use that speed and that fast flowing nature to the disadvantage of your opponent. You want to take their strength and be like, oh, you guys are fast? Oh, you guys honor the run and you read and react quickly? Cool. We're gonna make your eyes deceive you. We're going to make you have to play with your mind and make you slow down physically, because we're going to give you a lot of information overload and make you have to read all these things. And then when you start to run the fakes in there, like, then all of a sudden you're running a play action pass, but you're still pulling a guard. So you're making the defense think like, up, here comes the run, because I see the run fake and I see a puller. Oh no, it's a pass and there's a dig behind me and it's a wide open completion. Like, then you start to play all these games. So yeah, it's and these are all things again that the Miami Dolphins do. They're a well-coached group on the offensive side of the ball. Well, regardless of if you think Mike McDaniel is corny or annoying or stupid or whatever, he's a good coach. Yes, he does well, and he's designed a very good offense. Even taking someone is like Tua, who I didn't think Tua was as bad as everyone was making him out to be, but I also don't think he's as good as being like the league leader in EPA and all this stuff. He took a quarterback, reinstilled his confidence, and built him back up. Like,
And
also,
elevated him with his scheme.
boom. Like, I mean, imagine an NFL player. How sad is that when a player comes to you and is like, am I good at football? Like, do you know how much your confidence has to be shattered to ask your new head coach that question?
He went
And not
through
only,
it, man.
he really did, man. And McDaniel got that confidence back in him and then built a scheme to play to his strengths. And it largely worked well until, whether you want to say that Tua came back to earth or whether it was because of the injuries, like, really until the injuries hit him, like, Tua was playing very well within that scheme and within that system.
Yeah.
Good comment, Kendall.
I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't get fired. I mean, I know he made the playoffs and he probably.
If you want Miami to fail, like, I'm cool, fire him. I mean,
right,
not unless
fire him.
like
but
Sean
like,
Payton.
as a NFL fan, like, I hope he stays in Miami. I just think, I don't know, it makes sense.
Oh, I agree. Like,
I just don't understand how those rumors even started.
With all the injuries they had offensively and defensively, I think it's tough to kind of. I think it's tough to place. No, I think it's tough to place the blame at his feet or on his shoulders, however you want to put it there.
Yeah,
Kendall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work out, bro. All right. Utah. All right. Bills offense now. So we broke down the defense. And again, everything we broke down for the defense and just really kind of summarizing it, those are all elements you are still going to see from this Dolphins offense, along with, not to even try and make people go back to it, but check out the Week 15 breakdown that we did for disguise coverage. And we broke down the Miami Dolphins RPO pass game, which is still a core piece of what they are, even with Teddy or Skylar Thompson. It's
funny how relevant that video still is for this matchup, because it's
extremely
literally
relevant.
The crux of their offense. So
yeah, it is
definitely, if you didn't watch that, it's still very, very relevant for this matchup.
It is like the body of the tree, and all the branches are offshoots off of it. They build so much from it. And because they built so much from it, they still have to use it and rely on it, even when you plug in other quarterbacks. Now, will the effectiveness or the efficiency be there just like it was with Tua or even Teddy if it's Skylar Thompson? No, probably not. But you're still going to see those passing concepts because that's their identity. And then it will tie in with the run game, which, like we talked about to lead in this episode, they're going to have to rely on more to lighten the point of emphasis of, Skylar Thompson, because they want to do everything they can to allow him to just smooth sailing, nice and easy. They're going to need to establish that run game. And what we showed you, these clips, the jet motion and the zone and the pin and pulls and all the RPO pass, but it's actually a run. That's who this Dolphins team is. So you will see that. But yeah, great plug. Go back and check out that Week 15 episode of Disguise Coverage, where we broke down the passing game of the Dolphins offense. really put that together holistically. Now, so again, flip side of the ball. Bills offense, how to attack this Miami Dolphins defense. You had a really good point, and I'll let you lead with this play here.
Oh, sure.
Attacking the interior of the Dolphins defense, really attacking them in the middle from a back seven perspective. This team has studs. Again, like we mentioned up front, Christian Wilkins is very good. Sealer is having a tremendous year. Phillips, even Melvin Ingram, Chubb. I think you legitimately have one of the best safeties in football on the back end in Javon Holland. I know their other safety has been a roving position in terms of guys being banged up. Eric Rowe should be back, though. You've got Xavier Howard. The other corner is a bit of a weak spot. But the linebackers, they're aggressive, they're fast-flowing, but they're not a tremendous group. That's a group where you can start to pinpoint and attack. That's not necessarily what happens on this play, but it ties into attacking the Dolphins in the middle of the field, whether with play action or concept, to really attack a potential vulnerability in this defense.
Yeah, for really the past like 2-3 years, it's been Jerome Baker and another guy, and that other guy is usually a Landon Roberts, and he's more of a thumper. He's not really a pass coverage guy. He is from that New England tree, and he's someone who just plays the run really well and fits the run really well. But I've always, for the past 3 years, felt like you can attack the middle of the field against the Dolphins, and that, to me, screams a lot of Dawson Knox and Cole Beasley, maybe Isaiah McKenzie. Depends on the concepts you're running. But here you get this deep over with the Dino post from Gabe Davis. And I really love this concept because of how it clears out. I think that's Xavier Howard on the bottom side of the screen, but it clears him out of the play. And you can see there's a clear, defined second level that Dawson Knox just has to get behind and then essentially continue sneaking behind as he travels upfield. And he does it very well. But then the second level to this play, or the second idea to this play, is what happens when Josh Allen starts his throwing mechanism, because it freezes Jerome Baker because of how much the Bills have started to put on tape. That's Roberts.
Damn.
Yeah, Baker is the middle one.
Damn. They're both wearing white sleeves. I hate the aesthetics. Baker's right here. Baker's 55.
So what happens when Josh
you
Allen
failed. Don't correct me on my show. You're out.
You missed the checkpoint. You're gone. When Josh Allen starts his throwing mechanism, Jerome Baker freezes. He doesn't continue getting depth as he once was. He stops because of Devin Singletary right in front of him and how much the Bills have put on tape that they're willing to take that check down option. And they have to legitimately respect that. And if you look at it, you can see Motor is pretty much in the same passing window as Knox at this moment in time. So it's really tough for Baker to tell which option he's going to. But
this also happened to Tremaine
Edmonds,
Edmonds.
it opens that window. Exactly.
Yes. Against New England, where when they were checking it down to Stevenson, sorry, I got excited. And they kept checking it down to Stevenson. Kendrick Bourne has that deep dig for like 20 yards, but it's because Edmonds, it's the same thing. He's caught in between Bourne and Stevenson just had like 2 completions on play action checkdowns for big gains. So he honors it and it goes over your head. Sorry.
Continue. Exactly. You see something on tape enough. And especially when recency bias for Edmonds' case, it happens literally the 2 plays before. You're like, okay, they keep dumping it off. I got to respect this. I got to start cheating this direction a little bit harder. But you do that, you open up a window somewhere else. And that's not necessarily why Josh Allen threw this football, but it's why that window was even larger. You could tell Josh was always going to Knox here because of the concept, because of the opening on that side of the field with Gabe Davis clearing it out. But this kind of goes to show how many options there really are on this play, because both Singletary was open in the check down, but also Gilliam on the chip flat on the other side. He had tons of space. So I really do love this concept in particular. There were a lot of options for Josh Allen, and I usually get on him for being too greedy and not taking the check down, but this was a wide open play. You take Gilliam and Motor here, fine. You keep the chains moving, you're ahead of schedule probably, but Knox is the right read here.
They did a good job with these intermediate routes paired with a clearing route, whether it was Yankee, whether it was with sale concepts in this game, which we're going to show another one later. Like, this is a good play design. It's a good concept. It's a good play call. And so that Yankee concept is a combination of, you're going to get a deep over from one side paired with a post from the other side. And like Kendall said, this one is a a Dino post, which basically just means like you fake the corner and then go to the post.
But
Kind of
that
like
also freezes the corner a little bit
correct.
longer, so it kind of makes him bite on the post action even harder and clears him out faster.
Very true. And I also I love this play because of the execution and design, but it also highlights some of the cool stuff Miami does on defense. I know it doesn't
Mm,
work, but this is a cover two play from the Dolphins. But your deep half safety is Xavier Howard,
corner.
who is your outside corner on this play, and your cloud corner is Van Ginkel here, who's dropping underneath. But on the other side, you have a typical corner who's in that cover two look on that side. So it's a nice little wrinkle. But again, what you've got from Gabe Davis, Howard has to honor this piece from Davis. So no matter what Davis does, if Davis stays vertical, if he doesn't even do the Dino action here and just stays on a regular post,
Yeah, either way, he's got
Howard,
to carry.
correct. Howard's got to carry him. He's got to take him unless he makes an amazing play and diagnoses this and decides he's going to sit here and he's going to jump.
Yeah.
That route from Knox, but the odds of that happening are
You'd have to
short.
like communicate the pass off to the other safety and just
Or
commit.
you have
like,
to know, like,
yeah,
I'm
film
Ed Reed and
study.
I've studied this a million times.
Yeah.
I know this is happening. Boom, I'm doing this. But exactly to your point, because the second level, even here, like, so Gilliam's leaking out. Van Ginkel has to honor him. Baker is put into conflict and he recognizes the check down option. So both of them sit on those underneath routes, and that allows Knox to get that separation in a hurry. And then once he gets the ball in his hands, we get some of that juggernaut action,
Yeah.
which is really what you want to see. But
This
yeah,
is the value of taking the checkdowns. It opens up
yes.
windows everywhere else. It pays it forward to future Josh Allen in a sense. It's like, all right, cool. I have to eat this. I'll take the 4 or 5 yards on this play, but maybe future Josh Allen can benefit from this.
But that's exactly what it is. Like, you're tying everything together. Like, taking a check down on a play action pass early, yeah, it gets you 4 yards. And maybe you think like, oh, that 4 yards sucks. Now it's only 2nd and 6. But you doing that once, or especially probably like a couple more times, that leads you to having the opportunity created of being able to take that dig or that intermediate route later for 15 or 20 or 25 because you
Right.
planted that seed in their head of
Exactly.
underneath. And now all of a sudden you start to create that separation between the second level and third level. You create that spot where the second level has to come up to honor the short, and now the intermediate is open behind them. The same thing with the opposite. Like, if you're hitting teams deep and over their head, and they're bailing, they won't respect the check down. Or maybe it makes them vulnerable, and now you're running bubble screens and tunnel screens because you snap the ball and they got to bail out quickly. Again, same thing with the check down piece. We saw it last year in New England. We talk about this all the time. Hightower and Bentley were honoring that deep piece from Allen. So on the snap, they'd almost turn their backs completely and bail. And so Allen would hit his drop and not even process deep. He would just immediately check it down with Singletary, who had like 12 yards of space. And it's an easy 8 to 10 yards there because you have so much piece. You continue to make defenses wrong no matter what. You continue to put them in binds and in lose-lose situations. And that's a great piece. That's why you want to see Josh Allen take the check down. It's not just to stay on schedule and get yards when you can. It's partially that, but it's because of what it leads to later, which is also something Ken Dorsey talks about a lot. His idea of making sure the players understand, it's the first quarter and the third drive, and we're going to call this play. And it's not just because we're calling it because we think it'll work now.
Be
we're
successful right now, but what it does for us in the future,
because
later in this game or even later in the season.
Correct. There is some sort of bigger picture
to every
with what is happening. That's part of what makes the chess match of football so beautiful. That's a very good call out on this one. All right, let's go to the next play here. What's nice with some of these are Eric and I use some of these for the film room, so I didn't have to like draw up everything. So
nice.
That first one I did.
Glad I picked good plays.
Yeah, right. Don't get too great.
All right, I'm out.
Missed another check.
Yeah, that's another check.
Myself out. Bye, guys. So this is a nice piece. This is that 3rd and 17 where Josh finds Gabe Davis for that 21-yard gain on 3rd down, and this is just like it's labeled here. Gabe Davis just finds the soft spot in that zone, and you see Miami playing like basically an ultra cover 3 like prevent piece here.
Cover 3. This is 3rd and 17.
Yep. And then you see Gabe Davis right there, and Josh gets time. I also love from this piece too. I'm gonna rewind it really quick. I love how Josh, actually, I'm going to go to the end zone angle. I love how Josh kind of manipulates the pocket by moving to his right a little bit just to kind of reestablish. So he sees the pressure inside on Van Roten. So he manipulates and goes to the right a bit to help. It's almost like a running back setting up a block.
Yeah,
So he
so he
gets this
can step
defender.
into his throw to the left.
Exactly. He
Yeah, that's really
manipulates
smart.
that defender, sets him up that way, and then comes back to it and
Yeah,
just
changes his drop angle.
just a bullet. Really good
Yeah,
pocket
that's great.
manipulation from Allen.
I never
But
noticed that.
again, where's this pass coming? Around the hash marks, around that interior of the field where the Dolphins have shown vulnerability, to your point.
Little nugget on this. I really love that Davis decided to throttle down at so this is 3rd and 17. He throttled down around 19 yards and didn't truly curl it
So
up
that way,
until
when he comes back, he's still ahead of the sticks.
So he can work back to the football and still at that catch point, he's still past the sticks.
Gabe Davis sucks, though. That's what everybody says.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's terrible. He drops passes all the time.
Yeah.
It's who said it earlier? Creates good shows.
It's just true. Yeah.
Yeah. These talking points, it just creates good talking points, good shows, a lot of emotion. Gabe Davis is still sufficient. I don't know if he's wide receiver too, but he's sufficient.
I think that's fair. I think it's fair to recognize some of the positives that he's done while also recognizing that he has had some underwhelming spells and performances.
I just realized this. I think I've been an advocate for sufficiency. That's always what I'm pushing for. It's not like I'm always fighting against the people saying someone's trash to prove someone's just sufficient. Not that they're good, that they're sufficient.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
But that's also doing it a lot.
That's also a realistic nature of football. Like, you're not going to have studs everywhere. Like, you're
as much as you want to, and you want things to be like Madden.
Correct. At some positions, sufficiency. Now, if you are, no disrespect,
sufficient everywhere.
Correct. If you are the Houston Texans, sufficiency is not good enough because you don't have the studs. But if you have good players or good groupings or good units, you fill that in with sufficiency, right? No team has a whole bunch of A pluses and A minuses and A's. You need a bunch of B's. But if your whole team is B's, you're not going anywhere. But if you got a bunch of B's that are paired with a bunch of B pluses and A's, like all of a sudden, this team becomes a lot better.
Right.
And you had another good gain on that play. Now we're going to go a little deeper into the game here. We're going to go into the third quarter. Play to Dawson Knox. This is what I mentioned earlier. This one, we get the sail concept. So we get the vertical route from Stephon Diggs up top. We're going to get the flat route from Reggie Gilliam out of the backfield. And then we're going to get the intermediate net sail route from Dawson Knox running this little out/corner piece right here. Again, we're going to get that under center play action piece, similar to what we got on the very first play that we let off with the Yankee concept for Dawson Knox. And again, another piece of putting the Dolphins' second level into conflict. This time we get some really nice elusiveness in the pocket from Josh Allen. Dawkins gets beat.
No, it's Saffold. Saffold absolutely whiffs. And this is what I noticed. Saffold whiffs off the snap, and Ingram isn't rushing, so Dawkins is then able to recover for Saffold.
You know what's nice on this? Well, not nice. So Saffold takes a super aggressive set on this one. I was thinking of a different play in my brain to try and get Sealer. He did this earlier in the game, and it worked out perfectly. He got on Sealer right away, and Sealer didn't even get past the line of scrimmage. And he tries it again, but this time Sealer is ready and is like, psych, and just gets in there right away. But regardless, you get nice pocket movement from Josh Allen.
Yeah, Dawkins does enough.
Just does just enough. Then you get a nice little drop in the bucket. But again, wide open because of the conflict you've created at the second level. And now Baker has to honor Gilliam. You got the clear out route from Diggs, and you have another wide open Dawson Knox in the intermediate part of the field against the Dolphins.
So we don't have to go into this, but I'm genuinely curious what your thoughts are. Is this cover 3 or a blown cover 1 blitz? Because everyone else is kind of manned up in a sense besides center fielder, and then a Landon Roberts is just in the middle playing maybe a rat or
I don't think it's just because of the rush piece, in the committed rushers you have. I don't think it's going to be cover 3 on the back, and maybe it's some sort of combo zone coverage paired with their blitz package.
Right, some sort of fire zone.
Exactly. But I would lean towards more of it being man coverage on the back end because
of what
Roberts
just doesn't pick up Knox.
Yeah,
because he's the only one available.
Yeah, there's no. I mean, they're going to be beat regardless because of the coverage they have on the back end, the possibilities they have because of the blitz action and because of the run action.
I mean,
Paired
Roberts
together,
also isn't going to get there. Like, he's so
no,
far
you're
inside.
done. So he just drops into the middle, like, and just has nothing. He actually is the one, I believe. He calls. Here's
Yeah,
Roberts
he
right
calls
here.
something out. That's why I'm
Yeah,
like, what is this coverage? What is
he
the call
calls
here?
out Gilliam, and I don't know if maybe Ingram was supposed to peel off and take Gilliam
And
so
take
that way
Gilliam so Baker can take Knox. That makes
correct.
more sense because Ingram's essentially just a spy on this play.
Because usually what you have in a fire zone, you have that blitz, and then usually have like a 3-3 behind it. You got the
Yep,
3 at the second level and
exactly.
the 3. Yeah, but there isn't that.
Yeah, it's just a mess right now.
So somebody screwed up. I hate when somebody screws up because it
Because
throws
then
off
I
your
don't
ability to
know.
read the whole correct. It's just like, I don't. Yeah, that's a
Everyone
very
do
fair
their
point.
job so I can
Yeah.
break this down.
God, do your job. There were a couple plays like that where this past game for the Bills where Dean Marlowe did some stuff. He was fine, but he had a couple plays where I was like, is this cover 3? Because it looks like cover 3, but he's doing something that you shouldn't do. And then I was like, what? And so I had to study it like 7 times. Eric and I were talking about it last night as well.
It's the worst.
It is the worst. All right, so now
I love this play, by the way.
another piece. Yes,
really
we talked
shows
about
James
this
Cook
mid-zone run. We talked earlier about James Cook and how much we like him and how he's progressed over the year. This is the Bills leaning into James Cook, and you have a 2nd and 8, and you have a gain of 16 on here. Just this is the piece you want to continue to see if you are going to get these looks where, and this isn't even a super advantageous look. Like you basically got 7 in the box here, depending on how you want to classify this defender. But I would say it's 7 in the box. You just take that mid-zone run to the weak side. And you know what else I love too? Like, look at, again, Roberts. Watch him on, or maybe it's Baker. It's Baker. Oh, the sleeves are driving me nuts. Also, because I thought this was a 5.
Baker has a towel.
Oh, good call. So
literally my job to do this.
No, wait. So then, no, this guy has the towel, and that's not Baker.
Oh, who is that? That's not Roberts.
That's why I said I saw the 5, and I was like, oh, so that has to be a 2. I couldn't see. Regardless, it's not important. They run that mid zone to the weak side. Watch Baker the whole time. He's not even honoring the run action, and it allows Saffold to climb right to him.
Yeah, right to him.
And it's just space on space, and then you get a nice setup from Cook. This is a huge piece for me. Watch Cook here, because Baker tries to cut this off. Saffold gets a push. Watch Cook. He cuts in between Baker and Saffold. Whoop. That's smooth, man. That's silky. To have that fluidity, to be able to flow like water in between the block, in between the blocker and the defender. Oh, that's pretty. That's real pretty.
I really enjoyed the setup to this play in terms of just from the scheme of it all and where everyone is aligned in terms of formation. Like, you have the wide bunch on the bottom side of the screen, right? And that completely takes the nickel cornerback out of the run fit. But then on top of that, you have the RPO action on the top side of the screen. So that safety on the top side of the box is then respecting Dawson Knox on the flat route because of the RPO action. And then it's really just 6 guys fitting the run. At that point, you have the 2 linebackers and the 4 guys on the line. So at that point, you think you have technically just a hat on a hat, right? Because you have your 5 offensive linemen and you have James Cook, who's taking the extra guy. He's got to make one man miss. But the Mike linebacker in this situation is watching the mesh point because he has to respect Josh Allen's legs. Once James Cook gets the football, and this is where James Cook kind of takes the cake over Devin Singletary, the way he changes angles, and because the Mike linebacker doesn't make a decision because he has to respect Josh Allen's legs, he takes a bad angle because he's already late on his read and tries to get to James Cook, but James Cook busts that angle completely and gets upfield for 16. So I loved how it's set up formationally, trying to find your numbers advantage by just utilizing a bunch of things, like a wide bunch on the left side of your screen with the right side of the formation having an RPO concept, and then also the read option where you just have to respect Josh Allen's legs at all times. So it's amazing how much this offense can really complement one another in every facet if you incorporate enough things.
That's Duke Riley.
Duke Riley.
Just hit me. Yep. Duke Riley.
That is exactly who it is.
And this is, to your point, this is the difference between Cook and Singletary, to have the juice to make his hesitation, to make him pay for it. Watch.
Yeah.
He hesitates just too much. Boom. Let's go again. Slow-mo here. Watch Duke Riley, who we highlighted, number 45. Look at, he's sitting. He's sitting. He's sitting. The ball is in with Cook. He's sitting. He's still sitting. So now he's about 1.5 yards behind from this distance perspective of where Cook is.
But then he also takes an angle forward.
Correct.
Just like a step forward.
Which is a problem. Which is a problem when someone has that speed that can change angles. Exactly. So yeah, now, so he's already hesitated. Now look where his next step is. To your point, boom. He takes that little bit, he comes this way, and then he flattens. So at this point,
he gets wide,
it's a different story. But Cook has that speed that makes that false step. And this is where speed and athleticism and juice comes into play, because you don't have to beat a dude by 5 yards. When you have legit burst in speed and real juice, all it takes is a half step. One step in the wrong direction for a half a second or a quarter of a second. That can be the difference between making a play and getting a shoulder or a chest on a guy versus only getting an arm or half of an arm. And that's
another thing. If with a guy with that kind of speed, you talk about offensive speed to power. If you're just getting an arm on a guy with this much speed and that much momentum cooking, that arm tackle's doing even less.
Correct. And he's just not able to get there because Cook's speed changes the angle and takes advantage of, he makes you pay. He punishes you for false steps or false reads. That's a huge piece. Go with the touchdown here. To Dawson Knox, again, attacking the middle of the field. This one's real nice, just the ability of Dawson Knox. Right here.
Be a quick one, but it's nice.
Yeah, to his ability to uncover as he gets to the end zone. Lies a little bit. You see him looking this way like, oh, I'm going to go over here. And the defender's like, yeah. And he's like, psych.
Yeah.
And just look at this.
It's just really nice stem. Really great body language. And
look at the separation at the break, how he snaps this off. Look how much separation. Again, like, here we go. This is close. Like, they're together. He's using physicality. Look how close they are. And then bang. Look at the separation that he creates here, and then it increases as he comes out of it. By NFL standards, that's wide the hell open.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Gorgeous.
Real nice. And Josh knew it right off rip. He knew that he had his man. He was looking at Knox the whole way.
Yeah, that's the read that he wanted. That's the man that he wanted. Again, Dawson Knox take advantage in that interior
physical matchup. That's what's wild, though, because that was a physical outmatching by Knox, but he beat him with finesse.
Yes. Oh, very well said. Nothing crazy on this one. This is just
another quick one. Is this Eric's note?
Yes.
I mean,
I didn't want to change it. Yeah, that's what it's funny too, because this is what his note was. And I also tweeted this play in saying the same thing. Like, oh, actually, yeah. So, because I tweeted this play and some dude came at me because I said, like, this isn't a normal throw.
No,
like,
this is not
far
normal.
hash to the sideline, in the snow, in the wind, over. You have to layer it over and underneath defender. And some dude came at me and was like, literally every quarterback in the league can make this throw. And I was like,
maybe like what? 5 to 6 other quarterbacks.
Yeah, I was like, there's maybe like 7 total, if that. But watch what you're going to get here. You're going to get this underneath defender. And just, again, the distance. Josh Allen is far hash to the sideline. You have a defender sinking underneath this route. It's windy. It's snowy. Doesn't matter.
It's kind of flat-footed too. Doesn't really step into it all that much. Like,
he bounces it. Just that's not normal.
It's not normal.
That's hard.
It's not much. I saw this play and I was just like, this has to go in. People have to respect this. And
respect the
full circle.
Capri Sun play.
I was just gonna say this goes full circle because this goes back to whoever commented we're spoiled, Bills fans. As
good
Bills
call,
fans.
yeah.
Like, I mean, let's be honest. We're spoiled. We're spoiled by the stuff that we see.
This throw, even if this defender's not here, like this still isn't like it makes it easier.
Yeah, just to beat the corner, just to have the velocity to beat the corner on closing speed alone. Like you have to have some arm talent to get it there before he breaks.
This is what 20. He's at the goal line,
It's
maybe
20,
a little yard behind. So this is like 21 yards downfield, just downfield. This isn't taking the
diagonal
hypotenuse into the equation in terms of the diagonal. But not only so you have to put it with enough force to get it there and not allow the corner to make a play, but you have to layer it over this defender. So you have to put touch on it while driving it, in addition to having to drive it through the wind and the snow.
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous.
Wild.
Just crazy.
This is my favorite package in this film piece that we're going to break down.
Yeah, you can talk on this. I know you were
Coach Chapman, awesome. Tons of great comments from you tonight. One, thank you very much for being here. Hope you dropped a like as well. But two, awesome comments all night. And thank you very much for the donation in the super chat. That's awesome. Coach Chapman says, Ant, Kendall, and Cover One, increasing the Mafia's football IQ one video at a time. Great job, guys. Ant is the Batman to Kendall's Robin. That's a pretty cool combo. Awesome. Thank you very much. I still think you're not good enough to be Robin.
I was waiting for you to pull something out. I don't even know if he's Robin.
I laughed so hard my headphone came out.
This guy's like the Penguin or something.
I heard you go silent, and I was like, he knows. He knows I'm going to say something.
I was trying to give you airspace.
I know. I appreciate you. Well done. Well done. So this is Dart. Eric has talked about it a bunch. I've talked about it a bunch. You've talked about it as well. Dart is basically a tackle wrap play. So I've got it highlighted here. Deion Dawkins is the one who's coming across. What the Bills will do based on the defensive front they're seeing, what we're going to get in this instance, you'll have Spencer Brown down block, and Dawkins is going to wrap and go around Brown. But what you can also get, and we saw this against the Bears, based on the front, this tackle might go out, and then you'll get that pulling tackle will come inside between the guard and tackle.
A kick and a pull through, essentially.
Correct. But the Bills have leaned on this play all year. What's nice is when it came in this game, so this is the fourth quarter, this is that game-winning drive that the Bills kept the ball from the goal line, starting with that throw that we just showed to Gabe Davis. They ran this play literally 3 times in a row, just side to side.
Just flipped it each time.
Correct.
Just went back and forth.
The first time it was 1st and 10, they ran it for 8. The second time it was 2nd and 2, they ran it for 7. The third time it was 1st and 10, they ran it for 4. And this helped them generate success against this Dolphins defense. And you're just going to see the physicality. You're going to see the execution. I've got everybody's blocks highlighted from this angle, but we'll show it from the sideline first. You'll watch, there goes Dawkins. And watch the physicality with Dawkins. Oh, it just meets his man and Singletary gets through. Singletary is a much better gap runner than he is zone runner. He's able to fit right off. I also really like, this is where the athleticism of Spencer Brown comes in. At the right tackle piece right there. Watch him get to, so he helps. Helps on the end right there. Boom, a little push down to help Quisenberry be able to seal this.
That guy.
And then he climbs to the second level. Boom.
Seals the next guy.
Nice. And Singletary with a good physical run goes through his man, contact balance. This is the Dolphins defense needed stops. And this is the Bills imposing their will physically and taking their soul. And it's 3 plays in a row and just beautiful.
And that's really what it is taking their soul when it's like, yeah, we're just going to keep spamming this play. You know that guy that you play in Madden who keeps running the same play over and over and over?
And I just hot route off of it and I make you
want Ant and Ken Dorsey in this 3 plays.
There you go.
I mean, if it works, don't break it. So, yeah, you see, I mean, you broke
it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, that's
if it works, don't break it. That's the new one. I like that.
Did I say that?
That's what you said. If it works, don't break it.
Boy.
If it works, don't break it.
Well, I mean, you shouldn't.
I know. It's technically right.
We try our hardest here.
We do. We try hard. So same thing again. This is literally the very next play. Same exact action. You're going to get the double team block here. You're going to get the pulling tackle. This time it's Spencer Brown wrapping around on the dart action. Boom. Get yards.
Just get that kick out block and you go straight through it.
And this again is the credit to Singletary. Again, I like the action. Here comes Brown. Chubb is on the edge. He gets too far upfield. Boom. So you have the hole. Watch where Singletary gets hit. Nope. Just keeps on trucking. First down. 7 yards on 2nd and 2. But again, from that same action, similar front as the play before that we just showed. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chubb makes 5 on the line. That was the first play. What do we got here? This time we have more of a traditional bear front look. You got the center covered up, and you've got the 2 3 techs there. Technically, if you want to go try and call this one a 4-eye or whatever, but then you've got the safety down here. The other edge, this is more of a traditional bear front, but a similar look in terms of an odd front and who you have covered up and where the advantage is. And then you don't give a crap about what's going on over here because you're going over this way.
Right.
And well executed again. Bang. Oh, and good run from Singletary. And then again, it's the third one here. Might look like the same thing. Literally just left, right, left, and you flip it. And again, we get good execution from Spencer Brown, from Quessenberry, Dawkins again, just imposing your will. Again from Spencer Brown. Watch Spencer Brown help out.
Combo block.
Boom. Christian Wilkins get knocked inside. Quessenberry wins, and then Brown picks up his man. Dawkins buries Phillips.
Singletary breaks through the arm tackle of Wilkins. Yep.
Imposing your will. Like, watch the physicality here on the edge from Dawkins. Bang. You can see the reverberation through Phillips's body coming off that edge. Oh.
Yeah. That kick out block is always so physical from Dawkins.
You see the reverberation. It makes me think of like when you're in the batting cages and you hit the ball in the wrong spot on the bat and it just like goes all the way through the shoulder. Like, this is good.
My one bit of curiosity on these plays, Dawson Knox is split so much further off of the tackle than Quentin Morris is on the first and third plays. I believe Knox is the tight end. And then on the second one, I think, Morris is tighter to the offensive tackle. This is the first one. That's the first one. So check Knox on the second one. His split is a little bit wider. And then on the third play, it's even wider than that. So I'm curious what the wrinkle is to that. Like maybe it's an RPO flat to the backside.
I thought of that. Like you're setting up the opportunity for if you want to make this, if there's like a pass tag
faster.
Yeah. If there's a pass tag, pass tag tied to it. It's a fair question. Yeah. Cause Morris isn't on the first.
That wouldn't help blocking if you're setting him out wider to the weak side of the
This
play.
is the second one. And maybe he's just selling and we know he does a good job, but watch Knox, like from a body language perspective, like it looks like he's running a real route.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So maybe there is like pass tags attached to it. Well done.
Yeah, maybe.
Good job, Robin. I was gonna say Penguin. Damn it. Oh, awesome. Thank you very much, John. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
John has been super awesome all night, just being here and your comments and also telling people to drop the like. And also, no, you shouted out the tree a whole bunch. I appreciate you shouting out the love for my two trees.
Never goes unnoticed.
Yeah, very good, very good. Oh, and Roy was hopping out saying it. Roy said, I missed the super chat. I think this is the super chat you mentioned. I'm in the film, man. It's hard to tell. But yeah, thank you very much, John, for the super chat, for being here, the kind words. Very nice, very nice. Oh, Chris came back and gave you a compliment, saying in reality, Kendall is Superman. I hope not. I hate Superman as a character. He does nothing for me. So I don't want to potentially hate you. Oh, Kendall, did you freeze? I think we lost Kendall, potentially. Oh, man. I'm going to text Kendall. We're going to stop the sharing there on the video. But again, highlighting these plays, it's about showing again what happened before, but how it can tie into what can happen before. No, I appreciate you, Roy. Thank you for giving me the shout out. Again, I get lost in the film. It's hard for me to go back and forth. Oh, and a good comment here from Dobbs saying, yeah, it must have been starting to get pretty slippery by then. 1000%. That slippery action in terms of the field and what it was able to do from a footwork perspective. And when you get that slippery kind of traction, whether it's in the pass game or even in the run game, when you get a slippery footing, it's always easier for the offense because the offense knows where they're going. The defense is more reactive, so it creates more instability in their footwork. So that's a good point as well. Thank you for the kind words, folks. Saying love the film breakdown. Frank saying cover one has improved my knowledge 1000%. Please, folks, again, while you are here, as we start to wind down here on this episode, if you enjoyed this content, I mentioned it a bunch, please, and thank you, drop a like on this video. It goes a sincerely long way towards helping us to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. So please drop a like on this video if you're watching live here on YouTube or watching later post live on YouTube. Drop a like on this video if you'd be so kind. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's cool too. We appreciate your view, your download, your listen, whatever have you. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify as well. Subscribe there as well if you'd be so kind. And also word of mouth is always great. Tell your family, friends, loved ones about how awesome this show is, how terrible Kendall was as a guest, and how I'll never invite him back. Spread the good word of Disguise Coverage. Or if you thought the show was terrible, that's fine. Try and ruin someone's day with it and tell your enemies about that. Bill says, are we done already? We've been rolling for an hour and 48 minutes, Bill. That's a lot. But yeah, appreciate you all. Thank you very much, Pops. Pops is awesome. I talk to him in the Twitter DMs all the time. Pops saying, love this content. So yes, likes, ratings, reviews, please and thank you, word of mouth, all that kind of stuff. Could not have done this episode tonight without all the people in the live chat. The engagement was fantastic. The back and forth with one another, the back and forth with myself and Kendall, absolutely tremendous. Very much appreciative of the kind words, the super chats, anything and everything. Thank you just for your general presence of being here. It's greatly appreciated. I also could not have done this episode without Kendall tonight. So Kendall, thank you very much for coming back to Disguise Coverage and joining me tonight. I always enjoy having you, but especially because, again, playing Miami for round 3 and tying it back into round 2, I thought you were absolutely perfect.
Yeah, it made sense.
Yeah, because of what we did in week 15 and how much, again, like we talked about, the whole theme of everything we showed offensively and defensively. I know these teams are different. No team is ever the same. And the quarterback issues that Miami is having and the injuries, so on and so forth, but structurally and schematically, everything we broke down that happened just a few short 4 weeks ago still applies to 3 weeks, whatever. It was a very short quarter ago, roughly. Mm-hmm. It applies to this game structurally, schematically, X's and O's wise. So that's why this episode was important. And again, not just to try and plug it, go back and check out that week 15 episode for Bills Dolphins. It was titled like round 2 Bills versus Dolphins, X's and O's previews, that Kendall and I broke down the passing attack.
Legitimately still applies and is very relevant if you're trying to, match up preview this Dolphins game. Definitely use it in conjunction with this episode. Yes. They both work 1,000%. Very well for this matchup.
Love the comment here from Frank saying that Kendall was definitely top 3 in this video.
Love this kind of humor. I saw that too. Yeah. That's great humor.
That's a tremendous, absolutely tremendous comment. John's got a good comment too, saying the hosts are great, but the chat is second to none. Yep. Very much appreciate it. I'm leaving this comment up because I think it's fantastic. Well done, Frank. Also, I'd be remiss. I mentioned at the beginning, the best pizza in Buffalo, New York, hands down. I'm not just saying it. Delicious sweet sauce pie, cup of char pepperoni, fantastic cheese to sauce ratio. They make their own blue cheese. They do tons of initiatives and drives for the community and city of Buffalo, whether it's Toys for Tots, partnering with Roswell and trying to knock out cancer, partnering with the Alzheimer's Foundation, the SPCA, just tons of drives and initiatives and giving back to the community. So get yourself some One Pie Pizza, do some good for some good people in the community of Buffalo, but also treat yourself to legitimately the best pizza in Buffalo, New York, hands down. Absolutely tremendous, beautiful, delicious. Also, if you're a fan of the Buffalo Sabres, we will have a live watch party on the Cover One Playback channel. Pay attention to my Twitter. Again, my handle is @pro__ant. That's pro, 2 underscores, ANT. Myself, Adam from Cover One, and Chris Kepner. We'll be doing a live Sabres watch party for tomorrow's game live at 7 p.m. Join us for that. We got to get the hell out of here. For myself, Anthony Prohaska, for Mr. Kendall Mirsky, this has been another episode of Disguise Coverage. I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well, staying safe, be kind to one another, take care of one another. We'll see you next week, hopefully after a Buffalo Bills victory. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. Godspeed. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you more than you will ever know. That goes for you, Kendall, and for everybody who joined live or watched later. Godspeed. We'll see you next week. And as always, go Bills.